The Edmonton Jane Doe, 1975, identified as Louise Laderoute, and the Edmonton Jane Doe, 1976, identified as Irene Jacknife. Today I'm covering two cases that were announced in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. Neither case was due to foul play, and they're not truly linked to each other than the fact that they're from the same area and both Indigenous persons who, like so many before them, have gone missing. For a variety of reasons, I'm going to present this a little differently. Louise Laderoute was just 24 when she went missing in 1975. Her family would approach the police and file a missing person report. The police took the report and never let the family know that they hadn't truly filed it as one. And they would keep checking back. They had no idea she wasn't actually listed as missing, despite contacting the police many times over the years. And this is something the Edmonton police admit to. On July 30th, 1975, the person they'd been trying to report missing was found in the North Saskatchewan River near the Beverly neighborhood in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. She had black hair, brown eyes, and extensive dental work. She had scars on both wrists, the one on her left shaped in an X. The recreation here was done and released, so it's not as if they didn't try to identify her, but unfortunately no one came forward, and the case just went cold for nearly 50 years. But then came an Edmonton police project called GEDmatch. Tribal elders would oversee the exhumation process where the DNA was taken from both women being covered today. The DNA of this Jane Doe would eventually lead to Louise Laderoute, who against all odds finally had her name. Louise disappeared in July of 1975, the same month she was reported missing to the police. And unfortunately, that was also the same month she was found in the same general area she lived in. It's just really sad. She could have been identified and she wasn't. Her family had frantically been trying to find her ever since. But I do want to say, in defense of the police, it wasn't uncommon back then for them to refuse to take reports. They would say that they had a right to go missing if they're an adult. So it appears in this case maybe they took that point, but they didn't tell the family. That was the position. It's just unfortunate as it led to a lot of unidentified people. Louise Laderoute went unidentified for 48 years. Had she lived, she would be 72 years old today. And this brings us to 1976, almost a full year later, in June. Less would be released about our Jane Doe here, although we know it included a recreation in hopes of identifying her. Very little was released about the situation, so I only know that she was found outside of a residence in Edmonton and that the COD was due to a medical emergency. There's no indication it was anything other than natural causes. We know now that Irene Jacknife was a 30-year-old mother of 4 when she succumbed to this medical event. Both women were reported missing. However, in the case of this Jane Doe, Irene's missing person report was placed with the police in Drayton Valley, Alberta, as she was living about 143 kilometers or 88 miles away. So unfortunately, both women sort of fell between the cracks. Her family would say how incredibly relieved they are to know what's happened, though obviously crushed because Louise had been gone so long, and they had no idea. Her son Daryl was interviewed by the news, as was her sister.
Announcement today, a big step in healing for Irene Jackknife's son.
She used to cook, and, when I had no toys. She used to make me little cardboard dollies and cut them out, so I can play with.
Louise Laderoute's little sister wonders if police had put in this kind of effort back then, would her sibling be alive today?
I just remember she was beautiful to me. I'd like to rebury her because we have a family plot in St. Albert, and I'd like her to be with the rest of the family.
The EPS says no criminal acts led to the deaths of the two women.
Irene Jacknife went unidentified for 47 years. Had she lived, she'd be 77 years old today. The Pima County Jane Doe, also known as the Elroy Jane Doe, identified as Lourdes Livisupa. On June 29, 2010, events would unravel into tragedy in Eloy, Arizona. The police attempted to do a routine traffic stop on a van. However, The driver chose to evade the police and refused to stop. The driver would then turn off the road into a field and try making a run that way. The person driving was male and the passenger was female. The two would quickly bail out of the vehicle into the canal, and the male occupant would be picked up walking along a nearby dirt road the following day. He would tell the police that they both jumped into the canal, however, he never saw her again. And we do know also that the canal, although not wide, was deceptively deep, 20 feet or 6 meters. So based on this information, they would examine the area surrounding the canal, and they did actually find her. Sadly, she had no identification. She was of average height and around 18 to 24, and she appeared to have Hispanic features. Her only jewelry was a black beaded necklace. Her clothing itself was pretty nondescript. The image seen here was the recreation they released of our Jane Doe. They were unable to find her name, and the case just went completely cold. Then, in the fall of 2023, something pretty amazing happened. This case would be solved by someone along the lines of you or I. Someone submitted a tip that they believed Jane Doe was a woman from Ecuador named Lourdes Livisupa Ortiz. We now know the man that had run away was a coyote who had driven into that field trying to get away to not get caught. Lourdes was a 21-year-old mother from Ecuador, and while I suspect that is why she ran from the police, she had hired the man to take her into the U.S. According to some of the translated articles, it appears she'd spoken to her mother that same day. She told her they were crossing over into Arizona and would be traveling to Los Angeles, and the trip would take about 12 days, give or take. Her mother shared with the media in her home country that Lourdes was a good mom. She was in her 3rd year studying business administration at a polytechnic university in her home country. Her child was a 4-year-old boy named Andre, and Andre's father was in the U.S., and he'd been sending resources home to her to support her and their son. However, the money stopped coming, and it was then she decided she had to travel to the U.S. if she was going to pay for her son's school and her brother's medical studies. So she paid a coyote to take her there, saying she felt no choice but to go, and she was charged $13,000 US in order to travel to the United States. Even saying that makes me a little sick. I didn't realize how much money was involved. Her mother would mortgage her home in order to pay this large amount, an amount she's probably still paying off. In addition to the mortgage, she took out a $6,000 loan from another source in order to pay the coyote. After the coyote got the first initial payment, he would leave Lourdes in Quito, Ecuador, and strand her there for 2 weeks. They would leave first to Guatemala, then to Mexico, and she would call her mother from each stop. Her mother would say that she was trying to track the coyote, just to make sure that her daughter was still safe. I imagine her mother expelled if she was detained, she would be returned to Ecuador. She contacted the coyote one last time, who threatened to unalive her and blocked her number. It's hard to imagine what that has to be like as a parent, to not know, to feel desperate enough to try to do this. It had to be, I don't know, it has to be scary. I know this is a hot button topic. Please be kind in the comments. Sometimes family members have commented on my videos. See anything terrible. No matter what anyone thinks about the subject, people sometimes feel desperate enough due to poverty in their own country and the idea that they can maybe make money here and send it back. I just feel like, right or wrong, I don't know what I would do in that situation. Sadly, her family would spend the next 13 years on a different continent, worrying about the person they loved and not knowing what happened to her. Lourdes Livisupa went unidentified for 13 years. Had she lived, she would be only 34 years old today. The Broward County John Doe, 1993, Oakland Park, Florida. This is one of those where very little has been reported by the sheriff's office, most likely because they really don't know more than what's been released. On December 25, 1993, a skull was located by some fishermen who were fishing near the north bank of the C-13 canal, and this is located in the 2400 block of Northwest 39th Street in Oakland Park, Florida. They were unable to determine how long he'd been there or what his COD even was. If there is justice deserved to this case, it's unlikely it will happen. There's no indication of who did this, but definitely this man deserves to be buried with his own name, and for his family to know why he's absent, that he didn't walk away. And all we really know is that he was 30 to 50. There's no postmortem estimate, but we know that he was skeletal in 1993, and he may have passed and gone missing years before. For the purpose of this video, I will say it was 1992 when he passed. If that's true, his date of birth would be 1942 to 1962. However, if it's longer, and it's entirely possible that it is, it would mean those dates shift downwards. And of course, we don't even know if he hails from Florida. That's why it's so important someone call the number on the screen. The Broward County John Doe, 1993, has gone unidentified for 30 years. Huge thanks for watching all the way to the end, and a big thanks to all of you who consistently like and comment on the videos. The whole dance with YouTube is hard sometimes. Whether you leave a full comment or an emoji, it makes a huge difference. It's a huge push toward the videos being suggested to new people. The next goal is 20,000. Thanks everyone for watching. Take care of yourselves and each other.